Hello, Algebra A and B. This is your second video tutorial or lesson, whatever you like to call them, for AMI Week 3. So your last assignment, you guys were practicing solving systems of equations with elimination again. Today, we are going to be doing, if you haven't yet, a assignment where you'll be picking what method you use to solve the system. So it's a lot of systems that are set up in various templates. Some of them are set up for elimination, some of them are set up for substitution, and it's up to you to decide which method will work the best. So I'm going to do a couple example problems for you. I'm actually going to do question number 6 and question number 8. So I'm going to walk you through the process of how I would do this on those, and then the rest of them are up to you guys. All right, so let's go ahead and start with question number 6. The first thing I need to do when I'm looking at these systems is I need to decide which method the system's better set up for. When I'm looking at the system I have here, the first thing I notice is that both equations are set up as y equals something. And when we have that, that is a very easy scenario to work out substitution with, because you already know what one of the variables is equal to. You already have the value of y, you only have to solve for x. So I'm going to take you through how I would do that. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and write up the two equations, and then I'll start showing you how I would work these out. Okay, so the biggest takeaway that we need to have from this is whenever I'm trying to solve a system, if one of my equations is just y or x equals a number, all I have to do is substitute that value into the other equation to solve. So all I'm going to have to do here is take this number 2 and replace y from the other equation with it. So that would look like this. Okay, so this is what the substitution step would look like. I have taken the number 2 and I have plugged it in where the y was in the other equation. So now I have 2 equals negative 4/3 x plus 6. So now I can solve this equation for x since I only have one variable left. So now I need to use inverse operations. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I need to figure out how to get rid of this 6, and I'll do that by subtracting 6 from both sides. 2 minus 6 will give me negative 4, and that is equal to negative 4/3 x. Okay, so we've made some progress. Now we need to see what the next step would be. If I need to get rid of negative 4/3, currently it's being multiplied by x. So in order to do the inverse operation, I'm going to divide. Now keep in mind, when you're dividing by a fraction, you can also multiply by the reciprocal. That way things don't look strange. And most calculators actually can't do this problem right here. Most calculators cannot figure out how to do negative 4 divided by negative 4/3. But if you know how to work with fractions, you can do it yourself. So what we're going to do actually is we're going to multiply negative 4 times the reciprocal of negative 4/3. So that means negative 4/3 flipped upside down. So that's what this will look like is the following. I need to turn negative 4 into a fraction. Remember, if a number is not a fraction, you can just put it over 1. And we'll multiply this by 3 over 4. And I'm going to put the negative on the 3. That way it's still negative. And then we'll see what this is equal to. Negative 4 times negative 3, because that's top times top. That will give me 12. On the bottom, I have 1 times 4, and that would give me just 4. And then I can simplify this. What's 12 divided by 4? It's 3. So after everything is said and done, x is equal to 3. Now, you already had the value of y. You knew that y was equal to 2 because that was one of your equations. Now we can take both of these numbers and write them as a coordinate pair for our final answer. X comes first, so it's x or 3 comma 2. I'll circle this here so you guys know this is my final answer. But 3 comma 2 would be the point where these two equations crossed on the graph. Okay, if you have any questions about that one, feel free to leave them in the comments or email me if you're a little confused or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and clear this and go down to our question number 8. Okay, so now we're going to do question number 8 from your assignment. That's 7x minus y equals negative 10. And the second equation is negative 7x plus 5y equals negative 6. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to decide which method we should use. So remember, if an equation is set up with x and y on the same side of the equal sign, like in these equations, they're written in what we call standard form. And when both equations are in standard form, usually we will use the elimination method in order to solve. And that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the equations a little bigger so it's easier for you guys to see. And then we'll start going through it. Okay, so now we know we're going to use the elimination method since they're both in standard form. The next thing we need to do is we need to see if there is a variable that has the same coefficients or opposite coefficients in our problem. As I'm looking, the y's do not match. That would be a negative 1 and a positive 5. But the x's have 7 and negative 7. I would call those opposite coefficients, and that's what we need in order to do the elimination method. So let's think about what sign or what math operation we would use to cancel out or make 7x and negative 7x become 0. So would I get 0 from subtracting negative 7 from 7? If I subtract, that's going to give me 14x, because subtracting a negative makes a positive. But if instead I were to add these two numbers, 7 plus negative 7, that would give me 0. And that's what I'm looking for because I'm trying to get rid of the x variable. So we are going to add everything straight down. So 7x plus negative 7x is 0. That will disappear, so I'm not going to write anything down. Let's go to the y column. We have negative 1y plus 5y. That will equal 4y. And on the right-hand side with the constants, we have negative 10 plus negative 6, which means that this is equal to negative 16. Now this is a fairly simple equation to solve. All we need to do here is a one step. You can honestly probably do this one in your head. 4 times what is equal to negative 16. But let's go ahead and work it out using inverses. So if I divide by 4 on both sides, y is equal to negative 4. Remember your rules of integers. Negative divided by a positive will always be negative. Now, we know what one of the numbers is, so we need to find the second value, which means we need to take negative 4 and plug it back into one of our equations. You could use the top equation or the bottom. Personally, since there's not very many numbers involved in the top equation, that's the one I chose to use. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that equation for you, and then let's make sure we understand where to plug the number back in. Okay, so here is what we know. We know that y is equal to negative 4, and then we have one of the other equations. If you're paying close attention, you might actually notice that this now looks like one of our substitution problems from before. All I have to do is take this negative 4, plug it in for the y, and then solve for x. So now I'm going to write what that equation would look like with the negative 4 plugged in. Okay, so here's what we have currently, right here. We have 7x minus negative 4 is equal to negative 10. So when I'm trying to solve this equation, the first thing I need to look for is there any kind of distributive property, or is there any way I can simplify it to make it easier to work out before I start with inverse operations? And if you're paying close attention, you should notice that you can subtract -4, which will change to positive or adding. So that is going to give me 7x plus 4 is equal to -10. Now I can use inverse operations. The first number we need to get rid of is the 4, since we get rid of adding and subtracting numbers before multiplying. So we are going to subtract 4 from both sides. And we will have 7x is equal to -10 minus 4 gives me -14. And now you have an easy one. 7 times what is equal to -14? Or if we use inverse operations using the division property of equality, we'll divide both sides by 7, and we'll end up with x is equal to -2. There's that negative divided by a positive again, so my answer was negative. All right, so now we have a value for x and a value for y. So let's turn that into a coordinate pair for our final answer. I'll have the x number was -2, the y number was -4. So this coordinate pair or point is where those two equations would cross each other on a graph. And we have it. So those are your two examples that I'm doing for you for this assignment. If you need any help or have any questions other than that, feel free to email me or leave them in the comments, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good rest of your week. And don't forget, we do have a Zoom meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock. All right. Bye.